Hey y'all, I'm Byron.
And I'm Margaret, and we'd like to welcome you back to the Beyond I Do podcast, where we discuss how we've successfully navigated the past 25 years of marriage. Before we get into our episode, we want to share this disclaimer. We are not marriage counselors, nor are we mental health professionals. We simply want to share with you what has worked in our marriage. Now, on to our episode.
Alright, for today's episode, we'd like to do something different. We decided to just freestyle. So we found a couple of subjects that we'd like to discuss online, and we felt they were pretty interesting. We're just going to let y'all know what the subject matter is, and we're just going to talk about it. So no notes, no nothing, just freestyle. It's like they do on the mic, rap battle.
All right. First topic. There was a post that we shared with each other online that we found interesting. There was a person who asked if it is okay to have non-sexual, mentally stimulating conversations with someone other than your spouse. And there was a previous post where someone was saying that their partner's conversation was not mentally stimulating enough, and that this person was the perfect partner except for that. And so we've just been talking about that and what it means, because I'm honestly confused. So to me, I don't understand what type of conversations they're even talking about.
Yeah.
And maybe we're not mentally stimulating enough to understand, but I would say as far as the first question, is it okay to have non-sexual, mentally stimulating conversations with someone other than your spouse? I would say, sure. Every once in a while.
Yeah, we're going to talk about cars, we're going to talk about basketball, football. What is the...
I don't know, but...
we can stimulatingly talk about... I don't know if one person likes the Falcons or the other person likes the Cowboys or whatever team. We could have a stimulating conversation about how we feel about our favorite players and the game
See, I don't think you would be very mentally stimulating, because I'm thinking like maybe politics, like philosophical type topic, but how often do those things come up that I don't crave that to where I would have to seek it somewhere else. That's
right.
What's confusing to me.
Right.
And so with the question that was posed, my thing is it okay? Of course it's okay to converse with someone other than your spouse, but I think the problem comes in is if you have one person who you have these quote-unquote mentally stimulating conversations with on a consistent basis. So basically you're saying that my partner lacks in this area, but this person fulfills that need.
Right.
But if you get to a point to where you are relying on those conversations with this other person, that opens up the door for this connection to be created, and it's a connection that you don't have with your spouse. And to me, that's where it starts to get murky.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, when I first saw this, I was thinking, okay, there are things that you and I can talk about, and we can talk about for minutes at a time, whether it's cars, music, Then there are things like, you and Kenyatta can talk about education things. I really can't. I don't really know what you're talking about, even though I kind of have an idea.
Right.
But, I don't know exactly what you're saying.
Right.
But I can listen. You know what I'm saying? So, therefore, your conversation with me in that topic is not going to be as stimulating.
Right. Well, and there, like with your job, and when you are telling me about things,
mm-hmm.
you'll have to kind of give me information in the beginning to kind of give me that background knowledge of whatever before you get into the story. But even in those, there's no, to me, that's just conversation.
Yeah.
There are times when we have, these deeper conversations and things, but that doesn't happen frequently, for one.
Mm.
And for two, there's usually some type of, it just kind of, you fall into the conversation.
Yeah.
We don't ever schedule, on Wednesday, we're going to sit down and have this deep, mentally stimulating conversation. And so for me, when people, there was one woman who said she's engaged.
Yeah.
And her fiance, she said that she doesn't have these deep conversations. She said she's gotten conversation starters and things like that, different games to try and bring him out. And she said it's just not there. And they had been dating. They didn't live together, or they were a long distance relationship. They've been together for 4 years, and she's questioning whether or not to marry him. Okay, so I'm like my thing is he an introverted person? Maybe he's just not a big talker.
Right.
So for me, I'm an introvert. And even this is not necessarily my comfort zone.
Right.
When we are around large groups of people for a long amount of time, when we get home, I'm peopled out. So I'm quiet. And so that to me, it was almost unfair.
Yeah.
You're trying to force something.
Well, that's the thing, with depending on what type of stimulating conversation you're looking for, it's what you're trying to make this man be this conversational type. Well, maybe he's just not going to be that, or maybe not now.
Right.
But as you grow and get life experiences, you can talk about things. Maybe he's willing to open up, but I mean, you think about how sometimes when we're raised, depending on how you were raised by yourself for the most part.
Right.
I was raised with siblings, but there was a time where I was by myself when my siblings went off to school and left the house. So it's there weren't a whole lot of conversation going on in those time periods. So, if you get together with somebody and they just don't talk a lot, that doesn't mean that they're just dead. That just means that you have to build on experiences. And when you build on experiences, we have stuff to talk about now. And whereas 5-10 years in our marriage, we probably wouldn't have been able to do this, or we probably would have been able to do it, but it wouldn't be.
There wouldn't
have
be
as much information.
Right. Well, even because I am an introvert, because I'm in my head a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It would piss me off to have somebody constantly trying to make me talk.
Right.
And for me, because of how I am, I would probably shut down even more.
Right.
Because why are you trying? I don't do small talk. And that's me in general. I don't do small talk. And so to constantly come at me and try to get some type of conversation out is going to get the opposite effect. And so it just made me wonder, if this person is perfect in every other way, are you willing to turn your back on somebody because of maybe you talk too much? And then I asked, but I didn't get a response. I'm like, well, did you get these types of conversations from people that you dated previously? And then why are you not with them? If they were, I just didn't.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, how they say today's time, women tend to make more financially than men in many cases.
Mm-hmm.
And then with, more women graduate college.
Right.
So sometimes some of these women think because they have this education or they have this degree that they have this level of superiority over a man that, let's say, didn't graduate college. I'm kind of wondering, like, or you think you just smarter than that man or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, or and thinking he won't be able to talk on my level because whatever.
And that's honestly, that's how it came up. It was kind of condescending.
Yeah.
Like I said, if he is perfect, he treats you well, he does things for you, but you don't. And then I'm still stuck on, what do you mean by a mentally stimulating conversation?
Yeah.
Because to me, that should be an organic thing. Like we don't have to schedule these deep conversations.
Right.
That should come from our day-to-day interactions.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think that, like, for you and I, we may see a news story or something, and that will spark a conversation that may get deep.
Yeah.
Or we may see something, so it's not something that occurs all the time. And I'm saying that, I guess, they're deep. I don't know, because maybe they're not deep. Maybe that's the problem.
It just maybe have to be all that deep, and maybe
we're just maybe we're a little slow.
We've been married so long. I guess we're stuff
old.
Like that. Well, this just doesn't bother us, but
just imagine. For 49 years, I have not been properly mentally stimulated.
Well, I'm blue collar now, so
Well, apparently, I'm confused by that one, and it's condescending, and it's almost like you're nitpicking and looking for something.
Yeah.
And in terms of, should you have these conversations with someone other than your spouse, I know that connection can open the door to other things. And of course you have conversations with people, and that they may be deep mentally stimulated, but if you have someone that you are consistently creating this situations with, I don't think that's a good idea.
I think the heading just throws me off kind of, because they put in parentheses non-sexual conversation. It's like, if you throw in non-sexual, then what is the level of conversation that you're trying to have?
Like I said, it goes back to, what does that even mean? What does that mentally stimulating mean?
Yeah.
Because it makes it seem like your partner is like, what? Like, I just don't know what it means. It's confusing to me. And so I'm telling you, I would prefer you not be conversing in a mentally stimulating manner.
Okay. Non-sexual, don't forget the non-sexual.
Sexual or
Definitely
non-sexual.
Yes.
I don't want you mentally stimulating others on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
Every now and then, if you sprinkle a little mental stimulation and then keep moving, that's one thing.
Okay.
But consistent mental stimulation is a no-no.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. I think I got it.
All right.
Time will tell.
So I think that I have been mentally stimulated enough with this one.
Yeah. I think I'm done with that one. Yeah.
All right. Moving on.
Next topic. Can you outgrow your spouse or marriage?
Can you? What do you think?
Can you outgrow them? I think that all depends on the foundation of that unity. We've talked about before. We hear a lot of things, see a lot of different things on social media, and I know our beginning, because we were friends. We have a foundation, and we tend to forget that a lot of people don't have that foundation in the beginning. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if let's just say a man and woman meet at a bar or club, then they have a one night stand or whatever. She says, "Hey, I'm pregnant." You the father, and then he does the the man thing.
That doesn't happen.
Trying to get
I mean, I see where you're going.
Does that thing, and then they get married, and then then they try to make it work, but they can't get it to work because the unity is not there. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
And I mean, I think that, especially because we were so young, I think that we definitely could have outgrown each other in our marriage if one, like you said, if what?
If we stayed stubborn.
We? Stubborn? We?
Yes, both of us were stubborn.
Hey, okay. Anywho, so I think that could have definitely happened, but like you said, we had our friendship, but we also had a goal of being married and staying married.
Yeah.
And I feel like that anyone can outgrow, you can realize that there are lots of differences, but I think that there's a higher chance of moving past that if the goal is to remain together.
Right. And I think a lot of times what will happen when in a situation is, for years you butt head about certain topics, and you just can never come to an agreement, and it just comes to the point where it causes you to not be able to get along with one another. It causes a rift in the relationship. So then that one or two, or let's say it's a couple of different issues that you have, and let's say the couple never goes counseling, they don't go to individual counseling, they don't go to couples counseling, and they say they're like, well, hey, this ain't working for me, so maybe in those situations, where that's what I meant by the stubbornness. Like if you're not willing to, we see it on online where people just say, well, my spouse is not willing to go to counseling at all. We have an issue, but they don't want to go. I can't make them go.
I think it goes back to also knowing your partner, because we were young, and I remember, and we've talked about this, but I remember we were there was an argument, and you said I wasn't ready for all this. Well, I wasn't either. But I knew that what you were dealing with was separate from you as a person.
Yeah.
And so in situations like that, it's important to understand the person versus the action. And now there are some things that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But in those, like when you talk about outgrowing someone, I feel like we have to have allowances and leeway on certain things. Men tend to mature later than women.
Oh yeah.
So it's important to keep things like that in mind.
Yep.
But also, like I said, it's if the common goal is for us to work through, even if our working through is a struggle, even if it's hard, even if as we're working through, I'm trying to understand what the heck you mean.
Yeah.
Then it's still, as long as we both have the same goal in mind, I'm able to overlook certain things, you're able to overlook certain things, we can agree to disagree on certain things, as long as the important stuff we compromise on, and we know that the goal is to stay together.
Definitely.
But I can see it happening. I hope that in the situations where, you know, couples decide that, okay, there's nothing we can do at this point, I would hope that it could be a situation that's amicable and, you know, people can exit without being harmful about it. Because, I mean, people change. And you have to respect people. So I can see it happening. I'm glad that we kind of grew up together.
Yeah.
And learned how to maneuver things together. But I can definitely see it happening. And one thing that I'll say here, I can't stand for people to say they're unhappy in their relationship, but they have kids.
Right.
Please,
yes. Oh my goodness.
leave. If it's not working, your kids know.
Oh yeah.
Even if you don't argue in front of them, even your kids know if you like each other.
Yep.
And there's no need to allow a child to sit and stew in all of that.
Yep.
Because you're trying to quote unquote make it work or stay together until they get older. Now they know, and they're miserable because they can see that
they can feel
their parents don't like each other.
They can sense the energy and they can feel it in the household.
Right.
They can feel everything. So I mean,
I would hope that in those situations that the adults can make good choices and move on.
I've even heard of cases where, you know, one parent might be like, hey, this ain't mom and daddy working, you know, we're not working out or whatever, or, you know, and the kid is like, about time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. Been there, done that. Please, this is not ideal. So, I hope, and then too, if it does get to that point to where you know clearly, okay, we're not compatible anymore. At some point, you start being miserable, trying to stay in a situation that you know you don't want to be in.
Exactly.
So I think that it does happen. I would hope that people who are in this type of situation have really fully thought it through and put in effort to try.
Yeah.
As opposed to just kind of thinking, oh, I've outgrown you. Bye-bye.
Right. Yeah.
Which kind of leads into that final topic.
That's when the breakup is not amicable.
Right.
That's when it becomes dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that leads us to the final topic. And we broadly said expectations of marriage. So when you are single, maybe you get engaged and you have an expectation going in of what marriage is. And then once it happens, you realize that some of these things were not correct or they're not being met. And then what?
Right.
And so one of the things that we've noticed is a lot of times, and you mentioned it earlier, you have people who are looking for advice and whatnot because, you know, there's an issue, a disagreement, a problem, and they're wanting to leave. They're wanting to, you know, should I stay? Should I? And it's like, if this makes you want to turn and leave now, you probably do need to, because worse is coming. I think that, you know, we've talked about how sometimes people go into it thinking, okay, when you get married, you know this person, you've been with this person, it, you know, nothing's going to change, we're happy. But once you get in that situation, you have things that come up, and if you go into it not being realistic,
right.
it makes it more difficult to kind of work through the things. You just want to leave.
Well, I saw one today, and the young man was talking about, him and his wife. They've been together, I think, 4 years. And at first, he decided to do all the working and stuff, and she pursued her education. And during that particular time, she went to school, and he worked, took care of all the bills, took care of everything. Well, he was complaining about not having to do everything, because he had to do the laundry, having to cook, and she's only been working a year, and da-da-da. So he's expecting her to assume these roles.
Wait a second. So in the beginning, she went to school.
Yeah, she went to school.
And he worked.
Yeah, he got.
And so when she was in school, she was doing all of those things.
He didn't specify whether she was doing all those things, but he was saying that But she's finished school.
She's finished school, and she's working for a year. And so he's doing those things.
Does not. Oh, and she works from home. But he was like, I'm not, I'm having to do everything, and I'm tired of it. And I've expressed to her, I need your help with doing some of these things. But what I'm wondering, listening to that conversation, or looking at the post, I'm wondering if, a lot of times we, look for people, but we don't really understand like how they grew up. So let's just say, she was the type that grew up and was spoiled and didn't have to do anything. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't made to clean up, wasn't made to do anything growing up. So now you've inherited this situation, and it's like, well, maybe if you get to the core of why this is, maybe she didn't know how.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We just assume that, we expect that everybody grew up cooking, taking care of themselves, cleaning, but then when our mate, the person we choose to live a life with, they don't do these things, then you're distraught. And
I wonder if he has addressed it from that state, like, I'm used to these things happen, or
right,
these are the things that I think would help. Which ones would you like to do? Or if he simply just like complained because things aren't being done.
Yeah, right.
And I'm wondering what was happening before.
That's what amazes me, because these people are together 3-4 years before they got married, and then all of a sudden things has changed, and I'm like, I get, there's a change.
Right. But some of it is
just like way far to the left.
Right.
Like there's a reason. And when you try to tell, it's amazing how some of these people online are like, the first sign of trouble, you need to leave, you need to quit, go find somebody else.
Right, that's a red flag. If they're doing it now, they're always going to do it. But human beings, we change.
Yeah, exactly.
We grow, we mature, we change. And so to hold somebody to that, I think is crazy. I remember, several years back, they would talk about a starter spouse.
Yeah,
and they would say your first marriage is just like practice or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thought process that some of these people have. Like, you're just practicing with this one, which is sad.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you decide to procreate within that. But I think that there are a lot of unrealistic expectations. The problem, though, is of course, just like anything, you don't know until you're in it.
Yeah.
So having those unrealistic expectations, that's one thing. Getting past them, that's what has to happen.
Right.
Once you're in it and you realize, once I realized that my life was not going to be like Brown Sugar and Love Jones, I had to decide, am I going to go ahead and follow through?
Yeah.
Or am I going to seek out
find this lifestyle
that I have created in my head? So
my spouse doesn't know poetry, so
right.
I'm not gonna get this.
Exactly.
The stimulating conversation, like
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
We're not having dinner parties with our friends and playing random instruments. What happened to that?
Man, my ideas. Before, like as a teenager, sitting up there like looking at TV and looking at movies. Ooh, I want to live like that. Ooh,
well,
I want to have a house like that. I want that.
Our ideas and thinking as adults when we got married. Were unrealistic. I can remember shopping for looking for our first apartment together, and we thought that we had picked out the apartments, and we just went into the rental agency and filled out didn't we even fill out an application with them? Because once they told us the income requirements, we were like, whoa.
Ooh, slow down.
Okay, I'll take it. I'll take the application with me. I mean, and so we ended up being able to find a place, but it was, based on your credit score, you'll have to pay 3 times the deposit. That should tell you what type of environment we were in at that point. So even our thinking when we were married, it just wasn't realistic. We weren't prepared for all those things. And so there again, it comes to, are we going to allow this to split us up or to create issues, or are we just going to learn how to
merge our ideas?
Right.
And that's essentially what we had to do. We had to learn to merge our ideas, take out some of the things that we expected and say, hey, I just don't have this right now. I'll deal with it, and then we'll work on those things.
And the number one thing, then we had to learn it, but now we still continue, is our focus is us. And we do what works for us. And that, I mean, we're never closed-minded to listening to anything someone has to offer that's of value. But in the end, our decisions have to be based on what works for us, what's important for us. And that's been something that we've had to come back to over and over, even in times where we thought, where we were established. Things would come up and we'd have to stop and sit down. Look, I understand what you're saying. I understand it, but for us, this is what needs to happen. And those are conversations that to this day we still have to have, because society will tell you one thing, family and friends will tell you one thing, but if it doesn't pertain to us, then we can't focus on those things.
Exactly. So the expectations, there are some things that you can think about your marriage or how it's going to be before you get married, and some things you just have to learn to bend on or make some adjustments. Even during the process, we've made adjustments. To our thinking and our way of doing things. So just have to be open-minded, because I read some of the stuff I read online. It's scary. Something they're like, why did y'all even, people ask, why did y'all even get married? You posting these comments, like you're looking for advice. Why did y'all even get married? What was the purpose? And
because of my childhood and my career, I immediately go to the kids. And what the kids are going through and being raised in, and how they're going to come out based on those types of influences. So definitely focus on each other and what works for your household, and and focus on your partner and the person they are, and making it work.
Yep, and you might have to, I don't know. And it's like the situation we talking about earlier about the post I read. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they should live together for a little bit.
Right. Give each other. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know. But and that's another thing too. You know, talking about we've been told traditionally, well, don't live with people before they get married and all these types of things.
But
and sometimes you have to. You have to do what works for you too, and go beyond tradition.
Right.
People ain't gonna like it. You're gonna get some flack and blowback, but there are decisions that we made. And
wait, you gonna get some what?
Some flack and blowback.
Slack.
Yeah.
Flack and blowback. I think that's the oldest thing you have said.
That's
That's the oldest thing you've said this evening.
Yeah,
But okay. Sorry. I apologize.
I'll be 48 in a minute, so I'm stepping to my old manism.
Oh, all right.
But yeah, it's like you're gonna get some slack about things. People gonna make comments, but at the end of the day, you just have to do what works for you too.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
I mean, plain as day.
Yep. Agreed.
To heck with everybody else. All right, so that concludes our discussion. And, well, let me ask you, is that good for you, Miss Maggie?
I'm good, yeah.
You good?
Yeah.
All right.
Move on to our let's discuss it.
All right. Now let's discuss it. All right. For our let's discuss it topic, we decided to discuss, it's been what, 10 months?
Yep. Well,
since we started
9.
this podcast.
9. It was the end of January when we posted the first time. Yep.
That's right. So we decided to just talk about, how the podcast is changing our lives, some of the effects it has, things that we've learned, and things that, ideas that we have in the future. So let's start off in the beginning.
So, one thing with me, like, for me personally, it's kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone.
Right.
I'm not a people person. I'm an introvert. I'm not very open with sharing a lot of things. Well, I wasn't. So the act of sharing and the talking, and I hate hearing my voice. So all of those things have just pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And because of that push, kind of opened me up to other things that I probably wouldn't have even entertained.
Right. I remember, I don't know, it was probably back, and I don't have the videos now, but probably back as far as early part of 2022, maybe in March somewhere. I remember sitting here where we're sitting now, and it was like, well, let's need to record ourselves and see how we sound. And then we did like a little 30-second recording, and then we listened to it, and you was, I don't like how I sound.
I don't.
And then we left that alone, and then I think when
the
we
cruise.
were on the cruise,
yep,
we actually did, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes maybe. I don't even know if it was that long.
And we did multiple ones, and that was, I could see how each one like we'd get a little bit more comfortable.
Right, right. Yeah.
But even that was in July.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it still took us.
It took us till
that January.
We were on vacation last week of the year.
Yep.
And I remember we were in Vegas.
Yep.
And we took everything with us. Say, all right, we're gonna record when we were in Vegas, and that was our first episode.
Yep.
We're in the hotel. We didn't I had my iPad. I was just like, well, we just gonna get started.
Yep.
And I don't know if y'all remember the first episode. I mean, we had some sirens
in the background. Yep. Those were Vegas.
Those in the background. It was
Those were Vegas police officers.
Yep. And but it was pretty neat. I know for me, I've learned a lot as far as recording and editing.
Mm-hmm.
Adding audio. Controlling volumes. Some of our first episodes sound rough because I really didn't know how to edit. I was just like, I'm just gonna put the sound there so some of the volume is low, some of the background music is higher than the vocals. But I've learned over time, and that excites me more because I'm able to incorporate some of my music that I've been working on.
Yep.
So a lot of the music, the background music. Well, pretty much all the background music, for the most part, I've produced on my iPad, and it's a lot of
smooth.
It's a lot of soft music you hear in the background. I actually produced that. Now, I'm not an instrument player, but I can arrange some tracks though. So anyway, I'm just learning a lot as far as editing the podcast, going through, sitting down, listening to every sniffle and cough and. Sometimes I have to leave that stuff in because it's just like right when I do it or when it's done, it's like there's words that are being said and it's like, okay, I can't delete that part out. So I try to delete as much as I can, but it's interesting. It really is interesting.
We've got, even with the actual recording of it, we record in shorter segments and then you put them together so that the editing part is easier. So we've learned things like that. I tend to handle the social media stuff in the website. So I am learning those things, and I love technology anyways, so that kind of gives me an outlet for those things. We have met people, and we have when we were in New Orleans the last time, the driver, our Lyft driver from the airport, we gave him our information, and he watched a couple of the videos and commented on YouTube. So that's been neat, being able to meet people.
And just you're wherever you are, so it's like we're out of town, you feel comfortable sometimes talking to people out of town more than at home, but it's just like, hey, this is what we're doing. It's exciting to share that, and we even gained a couple that we met here in New Orleans.
A younger couple that
has seek advice from us. Right. Recently, so that's interesting.
And at home, shout out to Voltrina.
Yep.
But we have
fan club president.
We have family and friends who support us, and that has been. I can't even describe how that feels when I see. I have a cousin who shares our post, and to see someone taking it seriously and helping to spread the word for us. I appreciate that, and so that's been a neat experience.
Yes, it has.
We've had family members to reach out. We've had friends to reach out and tell us how how proud of us they are. I'm trying not to tear up, but how proud of us they are for being vulnerable and these things. So that has been that's been just so rewarding in and of itself.
Yeah, and then to see your favorites like and share.
Right.
What we post. Shout out to my sister-in-law. Shout out to Sharon. Shout out to Shanda. Shout out to Veronica.
Even
shout out to all.
Nikki.
Nikki.
Who doesn't listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
But shares our stuff. So those things have been. That's overwhelming for me to have that level of support and consistent support, because even if these things are not applicable to you, by sharing those things, you may, somebody will hear something that will help them, and that was our goal from the beginning. That was one of our goals with this is. If we can just encourage someone, one couple to continue and put in the work.
Exactly.
And then another part of the purpose of this was a legacy for our kids. And we've done a few episodes with them, which has been phenomenal. It has been eye-opening. We are very proud of our kids. We have very talented, creative kids, and to come together and have those conversations with them, their intelligence comes through, their thoughtfulness comes through, so that has been rewarding also, and we've enjoyed that. Now,
are we going to tell them about our latest adventure that's coming up?
Slow down.
Okay.
Right. Slow down. So another thing. So I am more introverted than you're a people person, but I'm more introverted. But in our relationship, it's like I save all the words for you. And so I'm usually, I don't want to say the talker, but I'm the one that'll bring up the deep, mentally stimulating conversation.
Yeah.
Or I'll bring up the questions or the, thought-provoking type things a lot of times, or I'll have these reflections on different things that I've gone through, whereas you have been more reserved with some of that. And so through the podcast, I've gotten to know more about you.
Yeah, definitely.
So that has been good.
And we've even had questions answered from some of our past issues that that was able to bring light to some things,
right? And
has helped us. Okay, that's what you were thinking at that
right
time. I thought you were thinking something totally different. So we've grown even closer. Yes.
And then just to be able to create something with each other.
Yes, definitely.
It's, I mean, we have children.
We'll take a day, we might go to Starbucks or somewhere like that and sit and just create, garner ideas. At first, I was like, you looking at everything, but then I'm gathering information and I'm saying, hey, how about this?
Yep.
And you're like, that's good. And that, because, I have a little insecurity sometimes about my inputs and how I, information that I want to contribute. So it's like, I question sometimes, is that, would that make sense? Or is it smart? So, just being able to come up with information, and we're doing it together.
Right.
And we're touching and agreeing that, hey, this is the information that we want to put out there. And even then, it's like, okay, we can sit down as one and say, okay, this is what we're going to put out here. This is what we're going to work on.
Yep.
And I don't think we argued one time.
No, like, there was that one time when you took it upon yourself to post something without checking.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Yeah.
You have to check with your co-producer,
editor,
your co-show producer first, and make sure.
Editor-in-chief that when I'm texting, when I'm putting post up,
yes,
that's
I
a spell
have to
check.
grammar check and
spell that
check.
wrong.
That's right. So that's been good too.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side of that, we've discussed all the good parts, but there have been some more negative effects also. Like I said, this is out of my comfort zone to be this vulnerable, to put stuff out there, and so that has been it's been hard in that if we are putting ourselves out on this platform to discuss our marriage, then it makes me hyper focused on making sure that it's an authentic thing that we're putting out there. So now I go back and I'm questioning things. So there's a level of insecurity that's there that has kind of popped up because, I think about stuff like if we do have a disagreement about something, say we're out somewhere, we have a disagreement and we're with family, whatever, friends, then the thinking is, but y'all on a podcast telling people how to be married, and y'all can't even get along through dinner. So those like types of things,
the microscope effect,
right? Right.
People are going to be looking at us like, oh, y'all arguing. How y'all gonna argue?
And then
y'all supposed to be telling folks about marriage and stuff,
right? And I'm hoping that's the real of it. I'm
hoping that that's the reality of it, because it's all, marriage is not joy and bliss every single day 24/7.
Right.
There are some days where you just don't even want to talk to each other.
Right.
Or some periods where you just want to be by yourself and be quiet. And that's the reality of it. And those are the type of things that we long to share, to let people know that it's okay.
Right.
That's fine if that's how you feel. But just at the end of the day, as long as you're coming together, you're touching agreeing, and you're communicating with one another, and that's all. That's the main thing.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
Right. So there, that has been difficult, and then, like I said, I'm the one who I am. At least with you, I am the one who will overspill about my feelings and about things, and so it. Once I started to bring these things up to you, then I find out that you're having, you have the same feelings also, you just haven't voiced them. Because that adds another layer of insecurity for me. So we've had to kind of regroup and refocus ourselves, which is reality. That's just reality. That's we're human, so that has been one of the down parts of it. Working full time, both of us working full time, and the way that your schedule is, that's been difficult to stay consistent, and to if there are things that we want to do or try or explore, but the timing is off. That's been hard.
It's a struggle fighting between, okay, got our personal time, got our normal things that we like to do. We got work. She has work stuff she has to do. I do stuff around the house. I work on cars periodically. So it's like balancing that time. And that's been challenging. But, it's like times like now, and it's just like, okay, well, I got a day off. We're going to have to put aside some things that we normally do. And just put some work in. And it the rewarding thing that I like is it's nothing like when I open up my phone or pull up my Facebook and I see, hey, I got podcast episodes. I listen to podcasts all the time anyway. But it's like, I'm going to listen to me. I'm going to listen to us.
When the notifications come up, a new episode. Or YouTube notification comes up. Or if I open up YouTube and I see us, that's been neat.
Opening up YouTube and see one of our episodes. Now that YouTube, that's very interesting. That was something that I was a little bit nervous about in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, it's fun. It really is fun, and I really am enjoying it. Watching us, listening to us.
I don't do all that. I mean, I do.
Editing us,
but...
you know. Of course, I tend to not listen to us as much because I've edited the episode, so it's like, you know, I've heard all this, but then I'll let like 3 or 4 episodes pile up, and then I'll listen to everything. Like be outside working out.
Exactly.
To, you know, 4 or 5 episodes, but I don't listen to them when they come out.
There have been times when I might walk into a room or you're outside and I hear me, and then I hear you, and I'm like, is he watching us? Is he listening to us?
Yep.
But that's been neat. So I say we tell a little bit and dangle a carrot.
Okay.
So I came across a post in a podcasters group. This woman who has a podcast, the Encore podcast, and the premise of her show is people who are 50 and older, and they're making these pivots in life. So the main show is over and it's time for the encore. And I told her that I love the premise of her show, and I said, you know, in another year or so, I'll reach out to you. And she ended up reaching out to me, and we met with her, and we immediately clicked. There were so many things that we had in common, and we are going to be guests on her show. So we will be recording that in a couple of weeks.
Can't wait.
And on the show,
You're gonna be on the show?
This is the carrot dangle part. We will talk about the podcast and how that came to be, and our next steps, which we're not going to share now, but we will share on her podcast, and we will let you know when that airs so that you can listen to her podcast and hear.
She does have some very interesting, her podcast is very interesting.
Yeah.
I encourage you to find the Encore podcast.
We'll put that in the description.
Yeah.
So that, because there was a couple when you search it.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll put a link in the description, and then we will, like I said, we're recording in a couple of weeks, and she'll let us know when the show will air, and we will pass that information along so that you can hear what our next steps are.
Yep.
For our encore.
Yep, that's right. All right, you good?
I'm good.
All right, until next time, we will holler at y'all. Peace.